Hey, welcome to Starbound. I'm Jack, and I'll be your narrator today. Did you know that nearly 500 supporters already get early access to all our stories, including Sunspire Academy and Friarian and Remy? If you want to unlock early episodes and support new series, just tap join below and become a Starbound member today. Now, let's dive into today's story. Jamie Harper was having the worst Saturday in the entire history of Saturdays. And that included the one where he accidentally superglued his hand to Tank's collar and had to go to the ER looking like the world's angriest dog walker. "Stupid window," he muttered, kicking a pine cone across the backyard. "Stupid tennis ball. Stupid physics." Tank, his enormous mutt of extremely questionable breeding and absolutely unquestionable loyalty, just wagged his tail, flower beds and knocking over the gnome Jamie had painted in kindergarten. Tank barked once, then sat down like, "Yep, this tracks, Jamie." Meanwhile, stared up at the monstrosity parked where his trampoline used to be, mouth open wide enough to catch passing insects. The ship hissed and clicked, vents steaming and lights blinking in colors that definitely weren't street legal. A panel slid open with a sci-fi whir and a ramp extended down, scraping the edge of the sandbox with all the delicacy of a toddler with a crayon. A figure stepped out, tall, armored, and holding what looked suspiciously like a clipboard. "Designation, Jamie Lopez," it said in a voice like Siri's meaner cousin. "You've been selected for urgent, universal diplomacy duties due to exceptional conflict resolution capabilities demonstrated during the Great Sibling War of 2021. Jamie blinked. "You mean when I let my sister have the last cookie and then tattled anyway?" "Precisely," the figure said solemnly. Jamie glanced at Tank, who gave a soft growl of concern or indigestion. "Mom's gonna freak," he muttered. Then louder, "Can I bring my dog?" The figure paused, then nodded once. "He scores high in loyalty and threat assessment." Tank wagged his tail like he'd just been promoted. Jamie squared his shoulders, grounded by the weight of galactic destiny and the hope this counted as educational screen time. Final chance to kneel before the inevitable Jamie, meanwhile, was still busy calculating how many chores it would take to fix a fence and regrow tomatoes, which, given his allowance, would require at least 3 lifetimes. He didn't even notice the figures descending the ship's ramp until Tank let out a low growl and positioned himself between Jamie and the newcomers. They marched in formation, 6 armored beings radiating smug superiority, and one poor soul who seemed to be holding a very confused potted plant as some kind of diplomatic offering. "You there?" barked the one in front, whose armor glowed faintly purple like it had opinions about modern art. "We demand audience with your planet's ruling authority." Jamie blinked, pointed at his house. That'd be my mom, but she's not great with surprise visitors." "She will come," said the alien, "or face the consequences." "Tank," Jamie said, taking a breath and stepping forward like every cartoon protagonist he'd ever admired. "Sit." The dog obeyed instantly. Jamie faced the alien squarely. "You're gonna want to rethink threatening my mom, because she grounded me for sneezing too loud during her Zoom meeting. If she finds out you crushed her heirloom tomatoes and tore up the fence, your fancy space armor won't save you." The aliens hesitated, possibly reconsidering planetary conquest in light of maternal wrath. The compost bin heard the distress call and reacted with the enthusiasm of a dog who had just remembered his job was protector and occasional chaos agent. He launched himself at the approaching aliens, barking with the full fury of a creature who considered mailmen an existential threat. The first alien dodged left, the second tripped over a flower pot, and both ended up tangled in the remains of the garden hose. Jamie, fueled by righteous fury and a sugar crash from earlier snacks, picked up another rock. "I told you, this is my yard," he yelled as he flung it with surprising accuracy, hitting a control panel on one alien's gauntlet that began emitting panicked beeping. Meanwhile, aboard the Divine Flame, High Marshal Averick watched the scene unfold with growing disbelief. "Is that child winning?" she asked no one in particular as Tank continued his rampage, and the humans' strange high-pitched alarm calls echoed through the ship's audio feed. "Ma'am," said her lieutenant nervously, "permission to reconsider planetary acquiescence protocol?" Averick narrowed her eyes as Jamie grabbed the garden hose and began spraying the aliens with water. "No," she growled, "send in the translators," and a shield unit, and for the love of the stars, someone secure the Legos. At the edge of the woods, half treehouse, half apocalyptic stronghold, all built by Jamie and maintained with the paranoid energy of a kid who watched too many survival videos and exactly one documentary about raccoons. Fort Awesome had everything: rope ladder, camo tarp, slingshot ammo stored in labeled peanut butter jars, and a crank radio that only picked up conspiracy stations. Jamie scrambled up the ladder, Tank leaping up behind him with supernatural determination for a creature who regularly forgot which door led outside. From the lookout post, Jamie peeked through binoculars made from old toilet paper rolls wrapped in duct tape. Alien figures were scanning the clearing below, clearly confused by their quarry's sudden disappearance. "Welcome to Earth, weirdos," Jamie whispered. Then grabbed the walkie-talkie he wasn't technically supposed to use outside the yard. "Base, this is Eagle 1, he said into it with gravitas. "They've landed. It's go time." Static answered, but it was the important kind of static. Spy static, Jamie imagined. Meanwhile, Tank had curled into his Defender of the Realm pose, eyes sharp, ears twitching. Jamie sipped a juice box with grim satisfaction. The aliens had no idea what they'd just stepped into. This wasn't a peaceful first contact. This was war. And Fort Awesome had Nerf grenades. And terrifying, radiating smugness like a space heater of doom. High Marshal Averic descended from her hover platform with the calm of someone used to planetary surrender and absolutely unprepared for one furious 10-year-old. She surveyed the wreckage of Fort Awesome with mild curiosity, as if Jamie's heart hadn't just been shattered along with every beam and duct-taped support. "That structure was non-compliant with galactic zoning," she said coolly. Jamie blinked, rage blooming behind his eyes like napalm. "That was mine," he growled, standing despite the ache in his limbs. "You don't just get to show up and blow stuff up. This is Earth. We throw shoes at presidents and yell during movies." Tank stood beside him, growling low and dangerous. The High Marshal raised one elegant brow and motioned lazily. Jamie reached for a foam blaster, aimed at her with theatrical flair, and fired. The dart bounced off her armor with a squeak. Averic blinked slowly, unimpressed. "You dare attack the emissary of the divine flame?" she asked. "No," Jamie replied. "I dare annoy her until she leaves." Then, from behind trees, from under decks, from the abandoned treehouse next door, dozens of kids emerged. Nerf weapons loaded, walkie-talkies buzzing. Jamie grinned through his dirt-smeared face. "Welcome to the neighborhood." Her skin shimmered violet in the light, her eyes like polished amethyst, and her expression carried the supreme confidence of someone who had never been denied anything in her life. Jamie stared at the smoking ruins of Fort Awesome, the scattered remnants of baseball cards fluttering like wounded birds, the twisted slag where his dad's Swiss Army knife had been. 2 months of work. Gone. Gone like the only place that had ever felt safe. Destroyed by someone who hadn't even cared enough to notice. Tank whimpered, nudging Jamie's cheek with his nose. But the boy didn't move, his eyes shining with something that wasn't just smoke. "That." Jamie's voice cracked, small and breaking, but then it grew. It sharpened. It hardened. "That was mine." High Marshal Eric's finally deigned to glance down at him. "Juvenile," she said coolly, "you will direct us to your planetary leaders, or—" "That was where I kept my dad." Jamie screamed, surging to his feet, fists balled, tears streaking down his dirt-covered face. "That was my place. My fort. My—" The words choked off. But not the rage. The rage flared brighter, rising through grief and fear like wildfire. Jamie Harper looked into the face of the alien warlord who had never been defeated, who had laid waste to planets, and he declared war. "You're going to pay for that," he said, voice low and shaking with fury. "You're going to pay for that so hard, your space kids will feel it." Averic laughed, a cold metallic sound. "Little human, you should." But Jamie was already gone, vanishing into the trees with Tank thundering behind him. All they left behind was a declaration. Nerf darts embedded in alien armor spelling out, "This means war." Lieutenant Sarah rubbed the side of her head, the creeping sensation behind her ocular sockets suggesting the human term migraine might be painfully relevant. "Casualties?" she asked, though she already dreaded the answer. Medical Officer Zix glanced up from her datapad with the wariness of someone about to euthanize their own promotion. 17 injuries in the last 6 hours, sir," Shall I sort them by humiliation level? Just give me the summary, Sarah muttered. Warrior Hexar stepped on what the humans refer to as a poop mine. He's still undergoing decontamination and has requested a unit transfer. Sarah's secondary eyelids blinked in what amounted to a long, slow sigh. Next. Warrior Kane took a frozen legume to the optical sensor from a slingshot device. Physically fine, but flinches whenever vegetables are mentioned. Warriors Tam and Vex. Zix hesitated. They were clotheslined. The child strung fibrous rope between two trees at neck level. They were mid-pursuit. She traced a line across her throat. They're requesting hazard pay. For fighting a soldier? Sarah asked. Zix shook her head. For fighting that child, sir. Through the command deck's main view screen, Commander Sarah watched in mute disbelief as the Divine Flames elite, conquerors of the Helix Nebula, scourge of the Crimson Fleet, limped back toward base, their armor streaked with mud, glitter, and adhesive strips featuring Earth's apex predators, which Sarah's cultural database identified as dinosaurs. One warrior had, "I got wrecked by an 8-year-old," spelled out across his chest plate in sparkling stickers. "Sir?" came the crackling voice of Communications Officer Jarl, who sounded like he was either panicking or mid-puberty. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface, 40 meters from our position. It's using our emergency frequency." "That's impossible," Sarah muttered. "No primitive species could." But the screen cut him off, flickering to life with the image of a very close-up human face, one wide eye and a smudged nose pressed awkwardly to the camera. Dirt and what looked suspiciously like peanut butter smeared the lens. "Attention, space dorks," the child declared proudly. "This is Supreme Commander General Admiral Jamie of the Earth Defense Force. You have 20 minutes to get off my planet or I release the bees." "Bees?" Sarah echoed weakly. Jarl swallowed. "Flying Earth insects, sir. Capable of coordinated aerial strikes. Venomous. Also responsible for something called honey, but mostly the stingers. Also capable of causing anaphylactic shock," Zix finished grimly. "He's bluffing," Sarah said, but his voice lacked conviction. "How would a child acquire?" A jar hurtled from the tree line and shattered against their shield generator. The defensive barrier, rated to withstand plasma blasts and minor solar events, fizzled violently as dozens of furious, displaced bees found themselves with one objective: sting everything. Screams erupted across the camp. Jamie's voice rang from multiple speakers, external and somehow internal, booming with gleeful menace. "That's what you get! Fort Awesome sends its regards!" Sarah watched in horror as Warrior Black, a veteran of 30 campaigns, sprinted past shrieking like a hatchling, desperately swatting at the airborne menace. 3 more soldiers had formed a panicked firing circle, their plasma bolts soaring wide and setting trees ablaze instead of insects. "Sir!" Warrior Villain staggered into view, dragging one leg and cradling a dented helmet. "Permission to speak freely?" "Granted," Sarah muttered. "That kid's got rabies or something. He bit me." "You let him bite you?" He pretended his ankle was hurt. "Gave me the big eyes. I bent down to scan and bam, feral gremlin mode." Meanwhile, deep in the woods, Jamie Harper was joyfully unpacking his gear beside Tank. "Okay," he said, counting carefully. 3 juice boxes. Nope, 2. "You drooled on that one. Bunch of string, mom's good scissors." He'd done with them was way more important than making paper turkeys. "That I'm definitely going to get in trouble for taking," Jamie muttered as he pulled out a jar. "Kevin's science project." Tank sniffed it, whined, and backed away. "Yeah, I know. Stink beetles. Kevin was supposed to study them, but he said they were too gross, so I traded for his good Pokemon cards." Jamie grinned. "Bet aliens never smelled anything like Mrs. Peterson's 4th grade science class." His walkie-talkie crackled to life. The one from his spy kit that had, through an orange juice mishap, achieved near-magical reception, pulling in everything from alien comms to Mr. Bailey's baby monitor. "Juvenile is armed and extremely dangerous," said a worried alien voice. "Heck yeah, I am," Jamie muttered, pressing the talk button. "Also, I'm not a juvenile. I'm in 3rd grade. That's basically middle management." Another voice barked. "Do not engage in close combat. Repeat, do not. He's here. He's in the vents." Jamie glanced at Tank. "You in someone's vents?" Tank blinked. "Didn't think so." More frantic chatter came through. "Lost visual in Sector 7. I swear I saw him, but he was in 3 places at once." "The trees have eyes." Jamie snorted, remembering the 50 googly eyes he'd stuck to trunks all over the woods. Mom had bought them for crafts, but this was art. Zero hesitation. The first one hit a tree and exploded in a glorious fountain of glitter and lavender-scented foam, catching the lead alien across the visor. The second landed in a puddle and triggered a chain reaction with whatever space chemicals were already in the mud. Now the entire clearing smelled like a soap store caught fire. Jamie didn't wait to see the results. He grabbed Tank's collar, shouted, "Go, go, go!" and bolted deeper into the woods, laughter echoing behind him like war drums played by chaos gremlins. One alien slipped on the foam and went down hard, the other two immediately breaking formation to avoid further contact with what their sensors were now registering as Class 4 environmental hazards. "Tactical retreat," one of them yelled. "He's weaponized aromatherapy." Jamie ducked into a hollow log, catching his breath, trying not to laugh too loudly as bubbles floated lazily through the forest. Tank curled beside him, tail thumping once in approval. "Okay," Jamie whispered between wheezes. "I think that was Phase 7? Tank licked his cheek, which probably meant either good job or you smell like bath stuff now. "Next time," Jamie said, pulling another Mentos-soaked bomb from his pack, "we bring glitter grenades. Tactical glitter. They'll never see it coming." "Both hands. Eat lavender, space nerds." Jamie bellowed as he hurled 2 bath bombs at once, the clearing erupting into chaos as a tidal wave of pastel foam and glitter swept over the unsuspecting alien squad. Warriors trained to survive acid storms and black hole proximity drills staggered under the assault of calming scents and sparkles. One screamed, clutching his helmet, "It's too relaxing. My senses, my battle instincts, they're dissolving." Another collapsed to his knees, whispering, "Everything smells like my grandmother's dwelling." By the time their vision cleared, Jamie and Tank were already gone, a glittery trail the only evidence of their rampage. "Good boys get treats," Jamie wheezed as they dashed through the woods, tossing Tank a strip of beef jerky. "And you're the best boy." They slid into a narrow ravine where Jamie had hidden his final stash of supplies, his war chest, a half-filled super soaker, duct tape, marbles, and a foil-wrapped mystery object that had started as a sandwich and maybe evolved into a science project. Gulping air, Jamie muttered, "Okay, Tank, real talk. I'm running out of traps, my feet are killing me, and I really gotta pee. But what if they have thermal vision for pee?" Tank, unmoved by the tactical dilemma of warm fluid detection, simply licked Jamie's cheek. "You're right," Jamie said, straightening with renewed determination. "Dad wouldn't quit. Dad would find a way." Jamie's voice dropped to a whisper. "Dad would probably tell me to come home and do my homework, but he's not here, so I get to make the rules, and the rules say aliens get wrecked." A branch snapped nearby. "Comedy," he hissed. "Tank, remember the squirrel thing?" Tank's tail started wagging so violently it shook his whole backside. He loved the squirrel thing. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Sero reviewed the latest casualty report with the defeated expression of someone reviewing a tax audit prepared by a raccoon. "He trained the local wildlife?" he asked deadpan. "The squirrels appear to respond to specific whistle patterns," Zix confirmed, tapping her datapad. "They're throwing acorns with surprising accuracy. Warrior Jax has a concussion. Very aggressive acorn, sir." On the view screen, High Marshal Avix finally stirred, turning to her crew with the grim realization that her military campaign had been hijacked by a child with craft supplies. "Status report," she snapped. Sero cleared his throat. 43 injuries. 0 progress capturing the juvenile. Severe damage to equipment. The troops they're scared of him." "Of a child?" "Of that child," Zix clarified. "He's been observed talking to plants. The plants don't reply, but the troops think they're plotting something. Morale is non-existent. I've had 17 requests for psychological evaluation. Warrior Next claims the child can teleport. Warrior Vred swears he claimed he saw the kid riding a deer with a mop lance made of duct tape. That's impossible." "That's what I said, until we reviewed the thermal footage. There was Jamie clinging to a bewildered deer, waving a taped-together mop like Excalibur, screaming for Narnia, while Tank barked like this was the greatest moment of his life." Avarix stared at the footage in stunned silence. "How?" she finally asked. "We believe he lured the deer with something called fruit roll-ups." Yill explained, flipping through notes. Our xenobiologists call it improbable, but apparently possible. They're very excited and want a sample. Commander Sarah cautiously stepped forward. Hi, Marshal. Maybe we need a new strategy. This juvenile operates outside known parameters. Our methods aren't working. You want me to negotiate with a child who jousted my elite warriors on a deer? I want to survive the child who jousted your elite warriors on a deer, Sarah replied calmly. But before Avarix could deliver her scathing retort, the ship's lights flickered, and the intercom came to life, filled with the unmistakable sound of chaotic breathing. So funny story? Jamie's voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere. When I said I was in your vents earlier, I wasn't. But this time. A ceiling panel slammed down, and from the shadows dropped one dirt-smeared, glitter-covered, maple syrup-sticky Earth kid. Tank followed with a growl. Tank followed somehow, despite being way too big for the vent Jamie had just dropped out of. Sup, Jamie said casually, leveling his super soaker at the stunned alien bridge crew. This is filled with whatever I found in Kevin's dad's garage. The bottle had a skull on it, so you know it's good stuff. The entire command staff, battle-hardened veterans of 100 war zones, took one synchronized step back. Anybody moves, I squirt, Jamie warned. Tank, guard the door. The dog trotted over, bearing an unreasonable number of teeth for a domestic animal. Avarix stared at him in disbelief. You infiltrated a military vessel through the ventilation system? That's impossible. Your vents are huge, way bigger than the ones at school, Jamie said. I got stuck in one of those last year. Twice. He kept the super soaker steady. Anyway, I'm here to negotiate. Negotiate? Avarix echoed. Yeah, Jamie replied. You leave Earth forever, and I don't squirt mystery garage juice on your shiny space stuff. That's not negotiation, that's extortion. I'm 8. I don't know what that means, he said with a grin that spelled doom. So deal or no deal? One of the crew whispered. Ma'am, if that liquid is what I think it is. Brake fluid, another muttered. Highly corrosive to our ship's hull material. How could he possibly know that? I didn't, Jamie chirped brightly. But thanks for telling me. Tank, remember, brake fluid equals bye-bye spaceships. Tank gave a single ominous bark. Things. Jamie's voice dropped, softer now but steady, like he was remembering something important. So yeah, I'm just one kid, but sometimes one kid is enough. He raised the super soaker again, expression fierce beneath the smudges of dirt and glitter. You picked a fight with Earth, and Earth sent me. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Not the tense kind of silence, but the heavy, stunned kind, where no one knows what to say, because everything that needed saying had already been said. Even Avarix, who had never known defeat, didn't have a response. She stared at this muddy, furious child who smelled like bath bombs and beef jerky, and realized that every calculation, every tactical projection had failed to account for something like Jamie Harper. You blew up my dad's fort, Jamie repeated, voice low and sharp. And I'm not going to stop until you're gone. So tell your fleet, tell your boss, tell your whole space empire, this backyard is under new management. Behind him, Tank gave a low, approving rumble. Jamie didn't flinch, didn't blink, just waited, because sometimes the smallest people really do the biggest things. Blow up my fort or try to tase me so you get a pass, Jamie continued, voice firm but not unkind. But your boss? He nodded at Avarix. She's gotta go, like pack up your fleet and leave my planet kind of go. Tank sat beside him, wagging his tail like this was a perfectly normal diplomatic procedure. Because here's the thing, Jamie went on, pacing a little now, super soaker still at the ready. You guys might have conquered 100 worlds, but none of those worlds had third graders hopped up on Capri Sun and spite. The bridge crew flinched at the word spite, like it was some new form of energy weapon. We're chaotic. We're unpredictable. We've got ADHD and a complete disregard for safety instructions. You came for conquest, but what you found was unsupervised children with internet access and absolutely no sense of proportion. He stopped in front of Avarix again, staring her down like she wasn't 8 feet tall and wearing armor that could deflect meteors. So unless you want more glitter bombs, angry squirrels, and flaming go-gurt catapults, I suggest you turn your ships around. Earth isn't easy pickings. We're the final boss fight, and we've got cheat codes. Tank barked. Jamie nodded. So deal or no deal? swarmed like a sugar-fueled stampede, hollering battle cries and waving homemade weapons with terrifying enthusiasm. One kid was dual-wielding Nerf guns and screaming something about vengeance for a stolen juice box. Another had rigged a leaf blower to fire glitter. "You see?" Jamie said, practically glowing with pride. "You mess with one of us, you get all of us. This is Earth's Defense Force. No uniforms, no rules, just chaos and snacks." On the screen, an alien warrior tried to hold position, only to be swarmed by 3 kids using jump ropes like lassos. "We've got tactical expertise from cartoons, engineering from YouTube, and absolutely no adult supervision," Jamie went on, still brandishing the super soaker like a sidearm. "Your move, lady." Avarix stared at the view screen in silence, the sound of her troops screaming and slipping on sidewalk chalk echoing faintly through the ship. Tank let out a short bark, tail wagging like a victory flag. Jamie gave him a beef jerky treat without breaking eye contact with the aliens. "So," he said, voice even, "do we have a deal, or are we doing this the fun way?" The bridge fell silent, save for one last voice from outside, yelling, "I found the hose!" and a blast of water hitting alien armor. Avarix sighed. "Deal." Photos with the terrified aliens visible in the background. One held up a handmade sign that read, "We come in peace, but we pack snacks." Jamie beamed like a proud general at a very weird parade. "Look at them," he said, "ready to fight, ready to meme, ready to protect their planet, and probably break stuff along the way." Tank barked in approval, his tail sweeping dust across the floor. "So what's it gonna be?" Jamie asked, pointing his super soaker at the main control panel. "You surrender, and we call it even, or I drop the internet on you like a 1,000-ton hammer made of sarcasm and fan theories." Avarix looked to her crew, who were all slowly edging away from the child like he was radioactive. Weil cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we're already being contacted by Earth's media outlets, and a group of children calling themselves the Chaos Command has threatened to expose our search history." Avarix's eye twitched. "Fine," she muttered. "We surrender. Earth is off limits forever." Jamie grinned. "Good call," he said. "And just so you know, if you ever come back, bring pizza and maybe fix my fort. We like guests who bring snacks and don't blow stuff up." Behind him, the children were now holding a victory dance party. Someone had pulled out a Bluetooth speaker, blasting bubblegum pop into the woods. Earth was safe. For now. Formations like something out of a very colorful, very poorly supervised military playbook. Squads of bike cavalry flanked by Nerf artillery, command units marked with glow sticks and glitter. One kid even had a drone shaped like a dragon and was doing aerial reconnaissance. "They've got formations," Ural said again, as if repeating it would make it less ridiculous. Jamie nodded proudly. "Yeah, Kevin's in charge of the drone squad. He read a whole book about guerrilla tactics after we got grounded for building a potato cannon in his garage." Tank barked once, affirming Kevin's tactical genius. "So," Jamie continued, casually pointing the super soaker near a suspicious-looking pipe labeled in alien script, "we calling this your loss now, or are we gonna drag it out until your insurance gets involved?" The bridge crew stared in mute horror at the screen, showing kids launching coordinated marshmallow barrages and advancing under cover of silly string clouds. "You're bluffing," Avarix said, but it lacked conviction. Jamie just tilted his head and gave her a look that said, "Try me? I've still got stink beetles, Mentos, and my mom's essential oils. One whiff of cinnamon clove lavender blast, and your whole fleet's crying." A long silence followed. "Full retreat." Avarix finally muttered, "And someone get me an aspirin." "There, sir," Jarl said in disbelief, staring at the screen. A flaming teddy bear. The crew turned just in time to see the camera feed show the smoldering, plush projectile bounce off the hull and land in a bush, which promptly caught fire. "Tyler again," Jamie said proudly. "He rigged a slingshot from trampoline springs and part of an old lawn chair." "That bear had a note too," said. "Next one's full of glitter and vengeance." The bridge fell silent as everyone processed the threat of incendiary stuffed animals. Zix slowly lowered her datapad. "They have siege weapons, chemical warfare, weaponized bees, and now, emotional sabotage via childhood iconography. Don't forget fart smoke," Jamie added. "That stuff lingers, like it gets in your clothes." Another thud hit the ship. This time a balloon filled with what sensors said was ketchup. Then another. And another. Outside, the view screen showed children laughing, launching condiment-based ordnance with terrifying coordination. "It's only going to get messier," Jamie said cheerfully. "And I still have like 3 bath bombs left and a whole thing of glitter glue. So, what's it gonna be? You leaving, or do we start Phase Chaos Deluxe?" Avarex sighed, head in her hands. "Jarl, prepare the jump drive. We're getting out of here before the next teddy bear has teeth." Launched a bear filled with glitter and a note that said, "This is Mr. Fluffing. He's filled with glitter. You've been warned. Love, Macy." Before anyone could react, the bear struck, detonating in a blast of shimmering chaos. A cascade of glitter, universally known as the herpes of craft supplies, poured through the still-open vent Jamie had used, settling over every surface with vengeful sparkle. Consoles sparked, warriors sneezed, and Axe's cape now resembled something out of a cursed fashion show. "Glitter bomb," Jamie cackled. "Macy's signature move. You'll be finding that stuff until the heat death of the universe." "I'm sparkling," Hexar wailed, swatting uselessly at the glitter now embedded into his armor. Another impact rocked the ship, then another. The children outside had begun their full assault, launching stuffed animals like plush grenades, each packed with new horrors, marbles, fart powder, or worse. "Ma'am," Sarah said, his uniform glinting like a disco ball, "I strongly recommend tactical withdrawal." "From children?" Ava demanded, turning sharply and shedding glitter in a shimmering arc. "A tactical withdrawal," Sarah insisted. "There's no shame in—" He was cut off as the ship's lights went out entirely. Emergency lights flared a moment later, casting the bridge in ominous red. In that glow, Jamie stood framed like a tiny glitter-drenched warlord, Super Soaker still aimed, grinning like a feral goblin. "That was Tyler," he said proudly. "Bet Tyler cracked your power systems," Jamie said conversationally, sipping a juice box he'd miraculously produced from his pocket. "Something about the frequency or whatever. I don't know. He's the smart one. I'm just the angry one." The bridge lights flickered again as the temperature started to plummet. "Oh good," Jamie added cheerfully. "Guess he found the climate controls too." Avarex stared at the console in disbelief. "Our core is encrypted with Tyler's tent," Jamie cut in. "Kid does quantum physics for fun. His science fair project on parallel dimensions made 3 teachers cry, like actual tears." The temperature continued to drop. Frost formed on several panels. "You really should have just left when I asked nicely," Jamie said through a slurp. "This is impossible," Ah muttered. "Children cannot possibly." The ship's PA system cut in with a loud crackle. Then came the opening notes of Baby Shark, blaring at full volume across every speaker. "No!" Ural shouted, clutching his audio receptors. "Not again. Again!" Jamie blinked. "It was used in the Centauri peace negotiations," Sarah yelled over the music, clearly in agony, "as psychological warfare. It's banned by 16 galactic treaties." "Huh, oops," Jamie said, absolutely not sorry as Baby Shark looped into its second round of auditory torment. The bridge crew, hardened veterans of intergalactic warfare, began to crack. Warriors whimpered. Jarl rocked back and forth, muttering. Even Akis's left eye twitched in time with the cursed melody. "Make it stop," Hexar pleaded, nearly in tears. "Say the magic words," Jamie replied coolly. "Please?" "Nope. Try again. Earth children are terrifying and we're sorry." Hexar cried. "Closer." Jamie's tone was maddeningly patient. "Jamie is a supreme defeater of Earth and we were wrong to mess with his fort." Hexar gasped. "There you go." Jamie nodded, pulling out his phone. With a few taps, the music ceased, blessed silence falling over the bridge, broken only by the distant cheers of the child army outside. "Now," Jamie said, lowering his Super Soaker, "let's talk terms. Real terms this time." He glanced at Tank. "You can stop looking scary." Tank immediately collapsed on his side and rolled over expectantly, demanding belly rubs. Jamie obliged with one hand while locking eyes with the alien command, perfectly calm and completely in charge. With Avarex's power thoroughly undermined, Axe repeated, "Terms?" Her voice was dull, her uniform sparkled with glitter, her warriors were psychologically undone, and her once mighty ship was currently being graffitied by third graders while Baby Shark still echoed faintly through the vents like a threat. "Yes, terms, please." Jamie nodded solemnly and raised a finger. "First, Earth is off limits. Forever. You tell everyone we're nuts and our kids are even worse." "Agreed." "Second, you fix my fort, exactly like it was. I want every baseball card, every drawing, every Lego, Actually add more Lego, those things are expensive. Axe nodded warily. Fine. Third, you leave a 5-star review of Earth on whatever space Yelp you guys use. Something like, great planet, terrible to invade, kids are feral, 1010 would not conquer again. Understood. Fourth, keep the helmet Tank's wearing. He looks adorable in it. That helmet is military. Jamie's finger hovered menacingly over his phone. The helmet is his, Axe said quickly. And finally, Jamie continued, tone serious now, you gotta promise. No takebacks, no loopholes, no we'll come back when he's older. Earth is ours. We called dibs. We defended dibs. Dibs are sacred. Yes, Axe said, defeated. Earth is yours by right of combat, by dibs. Right of dibs, by right of being absolutely terrifying in ways we never anticipated, Jamie said proudly. Shake on it. Averex extended her glitter-coated glove, and when Jamie grasped it, the glitter transferred to his palm like some kind of cursed fairy dust. They both looked down. That's never coming off, Jamie said cheerfully. I'm beginning to understand that, Averex replied grimly. A low boom echoed across the hull, drawing everyone's attention to the view screen. Tyler's trebuchet had launched a new projectile, something roughly volleyball-shaped, wrapped in duct tape and Christmas lights. What is that? Ciro asked, eyes narrowing. No clue, Jamie admitted. Tyler's got range. Could be anything. One time he made a Diet Coke and Pop Rock's volcano that shot foam 3 stories high. Another time? A Roomba BattleBot with kitchen knives. His mom shut that one down real fast. The volleyball hit dirt and detonated into a spectacular burst of... Are those lawn darts? Hexar asked in disbelief. Okay, that's new, Jamie said, impressed. Decent spread, though. Your friends are trying to kill us, Hexar snapped. Nah, Jamie shrugged. If they were trying, they'd be using Kevin's potato gun. That thing's basically a war crime. We save it for serious emergencies. He grinned. This isn't serious. This is Tuesday. You should see us in summer. Too much time, too many ideas, 0 adult supervision. Meanwhile, Tank, proudly wearing his alien helmet, had flopped down nearby like a victorious general awaiting snacks. Asleep, Tank's snores rumbled through the bridge like tiny thunderclaps. Jamie finally set his super soaker down, though still within arm's reach just in case, then looked around and said, So, we good? You'll leave forever and fix my fort? Yes, Averex replied, sounding utterly defeated. We'll leave. We'll fix your fort. We'll warn the galaxy that Earth's children are not to be trifled with. Cool, Jamie shouted toward the ceiling vents. We're good, guys. They're leaving. A wave of cheering erupted from outside, followed by fireworks, probably illegal ones if Tyler was involved. Jamie turned back, eyes gleaming. One more thing, he said. Not a demand, just a favor. A favor? Ake asked warily. Yeah. Can I get a picture for the gram? Mom's never going to believe this otherwise. Averex stared at the small chaos engine before her, the pint-sized human who had turned a full-scale military operation into a cosmic joke, using bees, glitter, Hauk, and Baby Shark. She sighed. Sure, what's one more humiliation at this point? Jamie beamed, pulled out his phone and scooted in closer, arm outstretched. Okay, everyone. Squeeze in. Tank, wake up. We're taking a picture. And so it was that High Marshal Averex, conqueror of dozens of worlds, posed for a selfie with an 8-year-old Earth boy, his glitter-dusted dog, and several exhausted, sparkly alien warriors awkwardly photobombing in the background. Jamie's caption would later read, Made some new friends today. They're leaving forever, but it was fun, Shan. Alien invasion, Earth rules, Tank is a good boy. The post would rack up 50 million likes in under an hour. Now, Jamie said as he pocketed his phone, let's talk about fort reconstruction. I want it exactly like before, even the weird stain from when Tank threw up. It's part of the ambiance. Of course it is, Ake muttered, resigned, as the group shifted into a conversation about molecular reconstruction logistics. Ciro quietly moved to Avarex's side and asked, Ma'am, with all due respect, what are we going to tell the council? Averex looked out at the utter madness outside, the growing crowd of children, the reloaded trebuchet, the spontaneous dance party, and Jamie, who was currently explaining to Jarl why a half-eaten sandwich was structurally load-bearing. After a pause, she sighed and replied, The truth, Earth's children are the most terrifying force in the galaxy, and Jamie Harper is their king. I heard that, Jamie called out proudly. I'm not a king. I'm a Supreme Commander General Admiral. Get it right. My apologies, Supreme Commander General Admiral. That's better. Oh, and one more thing. Tank gets a statue right next to the fort, a big one, with a plaque that says, "Goodest boy in the galaxy." After everything else, that seemed downright reasonable, even charming. Outside, someone had started up Baby Shark again, but this time the children were singing along, their chaotic chorus causing even seasoned warriors to wince. "Turn it off," Everex barked. "Can't," Jamie said with a shrug. "They have the aux cord now. Welcome to your life until you leave. Hope you like the extended remix." "There's an extended remix?" "Yeah, like 10 hours. Tyler made it for his sister's birthday. She loved it. His parents, not so much." As the high-pitched choir intensified, Everex made a final command decision. "Pack everything. We leave within the hour." "But sir, protocol." "Protocol didn't account for this," she said, sweeping a hand toward the chaos. "We leave now before they decide to show us what else they can do." "Good choice," Jamie said with a grin. "Oh hey, before you go, want to see what Macy taught her bees to do?" "No," the entire bridge crew shouted at once. Jamie just laughed. Pure 8-year-old mischief, laced with the smug satisfaction of victory. "Madness, you're lost. It's super cool, they fly in formation and everything." As the aliens scrambled to complete the fastest evacuation in Divine Flame history, Jamie finally sat back down beside Tank, letting the exhaustion catch up to him. It had been a very long day. "We did it, boy," he whispered, hugging the dog tightly. "We saved Earth." Tank licked his face, which was gross, but also perfect. Sarah approached quietly. "Jamie," she said, "that was genuinely impressive. Terrifying, but impressive." "Thanks, alien friend," Jamie replied. "Don't forget your friendship bracelet. I'll mail it to space or whatever." "Thank you." "You're welcome. Oh, and tell everyone Earth has really good pizza. Really good. But they can't have any unless they're nice." "I'll make sure to include that in the report." As the aliens began restoring Jamie's fort under his meticulous supervision, like the galaxy's smallest but strictest contractor, the sun set over the Pacific Northwest. Outside, the battlefield had become a block party. One parent brought juice boxes, another patched up a few scraped knees, and the military wisely kept its distance, unsure how to even begin explaining this. But in that moment, Jamie Harper sat beside his dog, watching the aliens rebuild, and knowing, for real, they'd won. "The ant farm," Jamie repeated, completely serious. "It's part of the structural integrity now. Kevin says they reinforce the walls with tunnels or something." Eris blinked, then sighed and relayed the order. Behind her, a squad of highly trained xenotech engineers began attempting to reconstruct an insect habitat using alien tools and reluctantly borrowed peanut butter. Somewhere deep in the wreckage, a single ant waved a crumb in victory. As the reconstruction continued under Jamie's strict oversight, High Marshal Averic stood watching, glitter still clinging to her uniform, and the distant echo of Baby Shark haunting her every step. Jamie, still sticky with syrup and dirt, looked up at her and grinned. "Told you we're weird." "You did," she admitted, "and I didn't believe you." "Nobody ever does," he replied with a shrug, petting Tank, who snored in contentment. "But we always prove them wrong, eventually." Averic had no answer to that. She just stood in silence, watching her elite invasion force now working under an 8-year-old with a popsicle stick and a clipboard. It was, without a doubt, the most humiliating defeat in galactic history, and probably the most adorable. An intergalactic incident during unsupervised after-school hours? Jamie shrugged, brushing glitter off his knee. "I had time. Homework's not due till Monday." Averic stared, weighing the absurdity of it all. Her warriors, some still faintly sparkling, were attempting to piece together a fort from half-burnt lawn chairs and popsicle sticks, while an Earthchild casually scrolled through interstellar fallout like it was Tuesday. Ciro winced as more alerts pinged in. "Marshal, Earth's governments are offering something called honorary citizenship, and this one wants to name a street after him." "I already have a cul-de-sac," Jamie said proudly. "They named it after me last summer when I stopped Kevin from launching fireworks at a raccoon." Averic opened her mouth, then closed it. There were no strategic manuals for this. None of her training had prepared her for a glitter bomb rebellion, meme warfare, or the terrifying political cloud of bored human children. "And the ant farm?" she asked, voice hollow. "Ants are memory encoded now," a tech called. "They'll be resurrected with full tunnel data." "Excellent," Jamie said with a thumbs up. "Fort Awesome lives." Ciro just whispered to no one in particular, "We lost to recess." Intergalactic law says you can't conquer pre-FTL planets, right? So technically, you're all the ones in trouble, not me. Vexy blinked, momentarily thrown off by being legally outmaneuvered by a child covered in syrup and glitter. "Hi, Marshall, explain." Everett cleared her throat. "It's complex. He weaponized bees, glitter, emotional manipulation, and an exceptionally annoying song. Our forces never stood a chance." Vexy looked back at Jamie, who was now trying to balance a rock on Tank's head. "Is that dog wearing military gear?" "He earned it," Jamie said solemnly. "Also, he gets a statue." We agreed. Vexy sighed, a sound that carried the weight of millennia of bureaucracy. "So to summarize, you failed to subdue a single human juvenile, were humiliated on every channel of their global information web, violated multiple council directives, and are now under terms dictated by a fort commander named Jamie." "Supreme Commander General Admiral Jamie," he corrected cheerfully. "And yeah, that about sums it up." Vexy paused, then finally said, "We will need to file an incident report." Jamie grinned. "Want a selfie for the cover?" "Is my fort done yet?" Jamie asked. Reconstruction at 70%, a technician reported. "Cool. Hey, Space Cop, want to see something neat?" Before anyone could stop him, Jamie had his phone out again. "This is called YouTube. Here's a guy making a knife out of pasta. Oh, here's a lady who makes tiny food for hamsters. And this is my favorite, a cat being scared of cucumbers." He held the phone up to Vexy, who stared as the feline sprang 3 feet in the air at the sight of a vegetable. "Your species weaponizes vegetables against domestic animals?" Vexy asked, bewildered. "It's hilarious," Jamie insisted. "Want to see another? Here's one with a guy falling into a kiddie pool while trying to backflip off a shed." "Enough," Vexy snapped, finally losing his composure. "Hi, Marshall, withdraw immediately. Earth is to be classified Category X. No contact for a minimum of 100 cycles." "Category X?" Ciro whispered in awe. "That's for existential threats." "Have you met this child?" Vexy growled. "He's 8 cycles old and casually discusses psychological warfare. Their global media is just injuries and fire stunts. They do parkour for fun." "It looks cool," Jamie said proudly. Vexy turned, stress visibly cracking his chrome plating. "Mark it Category X, now, before they go viral off-planet." "Spreads?" Averex asked. "You think other planets won't hear about this? A juvenile repelling a full invasion force alone? Every rebellious youth in the galaxy will want to be like," she gestured, defeated, at Jamie. "Fort's done," a technician announced, and Jamie immediately scrambled up, but Averex raised a hand. "First, the cover story." "Cover story," Jamie echoed. "For your mother, and for your planet. They'll want explanations." Jamie considered, then shrugged. "Just say it was a misunderstanding. You came looking for intelligent life, didn't find any, and left." "That's insulting." "Do you want to explain the bees thing?" "Misunderstanding it is." The reconstructed Fort Awesome stood in pristine glory, down to the sticky stains and the barely held-together modifications Jamie had added over time. He raced up the ladder while Tank bounded up his ramp beside him. Inside, they heard him checking everything. Then silence. "Juvenile?" Averex called. Jamie reappeared at the window, holding something gently, one of his dad's old baseball cards, perfectly recreated. "Thanks," he said softly, voice stripped of bravado, "for fixing it." And for the first time, Averex felt a strange weight stir in her chest. Possibly heartburn, possibly actual feelings. You're welcome," Averex managed. "Marshall," Ciro cut in, "we're receiving a transmission. It's the juvenile's mother." Jamie's face went pale. Oh snap. A hologram blinked to life, showing a tired woman in scrubs, clearly between hospital shifts and aging rapidly by the second. "Jamie Michael Harper." "Hi, Mom." "Don't you hi Mom me. I'm at work and suddenly everyone's showing me videos of you throwing things at aliens." "They started it." "I don't care if they started it. You're supposed to be in your room. How did you even—" "Never mind, we'll talk when I get home." She turned to the aliens. "Aliens, I am so sorry for whatever he did. Your offspring defeated our entire landing force," Averex offered solemnly. "He what?" "With innovative tactics and psychological warfare." Jamie's mom pinched the bridge of her nose. "Of course he did. Did you at least wear sunscreen?" "Mom? Don't mom me. Alien invasions still give you skin damage." She stared down Averex. "I assume you're leaving. Fast." "We are." "Good. Jamie, we are going to have a very long talk." their developmental environment. Contact not recommended under any circumstances. Jamie laughed, clearly delighted. That's awesome. Make sure you mention the bees. Already included, Ake replied dryly. Averex looked at the small human again, grimy, glitter-covered, and still somehow smug, and knew without a doubt that he would be the stuff of legend. Well then, she said, turning to board the Divine Flame, farewell, Jamie Harper. May we never meet in combat again. You too, alien lady. Safe travels. As the ship lifted off, Jamie leaned back against the ladder, Tank's head resting on his knee. The fort stood proud again, the sky overhead clear, and the galaxy now fully aware that Earth, especially its children, was absolutely not to be messed with. Nature engagement not recommended. If contact occurs, do not, repeat, do not destroy their treehouses. You forgot Tank, Jamie added. Ah yes, Averex amended. Native fauna includes dogs, which exhibit pack bonding with humans and will commit violence for treats and praise. Threat level varies based on how recently they've been called a good boy. Perfect. Jamie stood and offered his hand again. Thanks for not destroying Earth, I guess. Thank you for the educational experience, she replied, and they shook hands with surprising solemnity. Also, Jamie added casually, Kevin says if you come back, he's got a potato gun that shoots through tank armor now. Of course he does. Averex turned to leave, then hesitated. Jamie Harper? Yeah, your father would be proud. Jamie's throat tightened. Yeah, any parent would be proud of a kid who stood against impossible odds to protect what they love. He swallowed. Oh, thanks, nodded and walked back to her ship, cape swirling dramatically. Some habits die hard. 6 months later, the YouTube channel Jamie and Tank's Alien Defense Tips had over 12 million subscribers. Today's episode, how to turn your Roomba into a perimeter defense system. Okay, so first you need duct tape. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm wearing safety goggles. Anyway, duct tape and those little firecrackers Kevin's brother sold us. The camera jostled as Jamie's mom's voice shouted from off-screen. Jamie Michael Harper, what did I say about explosives? They're tiny explosives. Jamie. Okay, we'll use confetti poppers instead. Tank, edit that part out. Tank, who could not edit videos, wagged his tail proudly. In orbit, a Galactic Council monitoring station logged the feed. The officer on duty made a new entry. Juvenile appears to be training others. Potential exponential threat increase. Recommend extending no contact period to 500 cycles. Back on Earth, Jamie continued his broadcast, unaware he had become the galaxy's boogeyman. So anyway, aliens are scared of bees, water balloons, and dogs. Spread the word. Earth kids forever. Tank barked in agreement. Somewhere deep in space, High Marshal Averex watched the same video and did something she hadn't done since Earth. She smiled. Awesome's roof, hands behind his head. You think aliens dream about us now? Tank gave a soft woof and rested his chin on Jamie's chest, his new alien helmet slightly askew. Jamie laughed. Yeah, me too. Ma'am, Sarah said quietly, should we mark Earth as a priority watch? Averex didn't hesitate. Yes, Lieutenant. I have a feeling they're going to be interesting. Interesting, sir? The child turned household items into weapons, defeated a technologically superior force through sheer stubbornness, and made me apologize. In a century or two, when they figure out FTL, she smiled faintly, the galaxy won't know what hit it. On her private datapad, she kept a single image. Jamie Harper, age 8, covered in dirt, glitter, and determination, standing guard in front of his dog and declaring war on the stars. The caption read, First Contact, Humanity. Result, run. It would become the most shared file in Galactic Council history. But that's another story. This one ends with a boy, his dog, and a rebuilt treehouse, where he could still talk to his dad, where he could still be angry, sad, and brave all at once, where he could still be a kid who just happened to save the world. Awesome's floor creaked softly beneath Jamie as he lay staring up at the stars through the gap in the roof. Tank curled warm and snoring at his side. Think they'll come back? He asked quietly. Tank huffed in his sleep. Jamie nodded. Yeah, me neither. But just in case, he reached beside him and held up a small jar, its contents buzzing faintly in the moonlight. I've got more bees.